Fine. Okay,
Can you
great.
hear me?
Yeah. So good morning. All right.
Hello.
So how have you been since yesterday? Since yesterday?
Yesterday, I've been good. I've been good. How have you been?
Okay. Good. It's having a bright sunny day here. It's
Okay.
beginning of
Nice.
All right. So hi Herman, can you hear us?
Morning. Yep.
Morning. Good morning. All right. So Victor, you like to start with the sync?
Yes.
All right. Okay.
All right. I just wanna. Okay. Let me share my screen. All right. Can
Okay.
you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So I think let me just delete that. What's that? All right. So I tried to put this basically the changes from yesterday. And the key thing was, okay, the idea like we discussed yesterday was you have the source node, for example, here, you have C5 and then you have C5.1. And basically the first step is you are sending to all the neighbors, correct?
Right.
And say we start with C5. So if I receive this request, when I send this request, and in this case, I think what I added was just send the the request. Flip, I took it out. This is actually supposed to be node ID and source ID. I don't know why I took it out. I think I got confused. Node ID, which is the ID of, well, that's the same thing. Sorry. See, I'm confusing myself again. Sorry. But the idea was here. What's going on here? The idea was send the request, but this time not as a node ID per se, but as the source ID. So in that request, the source ID is present in it, right? And this, so C5 receives the request, and then C5 is checking, okay, is C51 closer to the source than I am? So in this case, C5 minus source and C51 minus source. And when I say minus, I'm just saying the delta between those 2 points from the source. And the idea is if if it takes longer to get to C51, then you should forward the message. I'm not sure if I'm using the right English, but if it's not going to take as long in terms of the distance from a distance perspective, and in this case, I think what I did was first, okay, so this is from the source node. Again, I'm assuming this is something that the network already has. And basically we're saying, okay, forward this request as the source to all my neighbors as the source node. And then when the neighbors receive the message, first you're reading the type of request, if it's a pub or a sub or whatever. But for this case, we're calling this area sub. But before you perform the process for area sub, you want to sort of understand what the distance is between the source node in terms of the source AOI as well as the my current position. So there might need to be a way of sort of separating all these node definitions. But in this first case, the idea is I want to know how far I am from C5 to source. So once I know how far I am, that's like a global variable that's sort of saved in that moment. And then the idea is if the request type is an area publication, then first you want to, again, know the list of neighbors, which we should already sort of have, and then loop through this neighbor list. And for every node, you want to first check if the node is the source node, which was the source that the request was coming from. And if it's the source node, basically do nothing. And if it's not the source node, basically if it's any other node, you want to estimate the distance it would take, which in this case I just called it delta D2. And I'm saying, okay, what's the distance between the source and the node in that neighbor list, right? So in the specific node it's interacting with in that moment. And the idea is, whatever that difference is, then you want to compare the source, which was the first thing that was calculated at the beginning, and then compare it with the current one. And the idea is if this source, well, if the length, again, this AOI is most what do you call it, the point displacement, there's going to be like a computation for that. And if that length is greater than the current one, then forward the request. And I think I'm not sure if I'm
It
sort
should
of
be the other
confusing.
way.
It should be the other way, right?
way.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wrote it on paper actually.
It should be the
be
other
the other way.
distance is greater. Yes. Yes.
So if this distance is greater than the source, should it be the other way? Sorry, let me just look at it again. I actually tried to draw like a Pythagoras thing. I should have done that here as well. But let me see if I can draw that quickly. All right, so we have 0.1, 0.2, let's say that, and then from there to there. And then in this case, we're saying this is the source, right? Okay, just hold on, sorry. So this is C5, and C5.1, and Control D, this is source. So this is just an example now, right? And then we're basically saying that if we call that, let's just call, I used like, I'm just gonna say C5. I'm gonna call the lines C5. So if S to C5, right? If S to C5 is less than, S to C5.1,
Right.
then forward the request.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so it's just my mathematics illustration. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then it's fine. All right. But yeah, that's the key. And then it looks like a big chunk of our of the whole communication aspect, there has to be this library. I just tried to draft it technically, but there has to be a sort of that's the way to put it now, a reusable sort of socket connector, where every time there's a connection to be made, there's simply either a call to be sorry, forget my French. We see that basically it's going to be like this reusable stuff where every time we need to make a request to neighbors or want to send some form of information, it's either it's been a publisher or it's, when it's publishing, especially because that's usually when, there's like a pub request, and then, so there has to be this request. Sorry, something is gone from here, but it's fine. Basically in this request, there's the IP port and, there, ADDR, and then message. And then there's each sort of the node sort of has to be configured to sort of receive different types. And anyways, my point is there has to be some form of standalone socket connector that allows for all these thousands and thousands of maybe even millions of connection requests that will be made. But the idea is simple, that anytime there's, say, a type of request, for example, if it's sub request, we are simply calling this and then, adding the type. And in this case, I think our type is, all this spatial sub or spatial sub. And the idea is when there's a pub request, then there has to be a sort of sequence of events for the socket connections. I don't know if that makes sense, right? And then if it's a simple point-to-point, I mean, the idea is simple. Just establish connection with, or connection, with the destination node. For example, if I'm saying, which is, I think, the standard protocol for the internet. If I'm saying I want to establish communication, I want to send a message from S to C21, and I already have knowledge of C21, then I'm simply using the socket connector to establish communication with C21. Right?
Okay.
But I guess the question then becomes, how are we assuming that S would have are we assuming that the source will have an idea of this this node in any given case, or would there be scenarios where S wants to communicate specifically to one person?
So
Okay.
just one question here.
Yeah.
So these are all matchers that you're drawing over here.
Yes.
Okay. So and the purpose of this creating this minimum spanning tree is so that the neighbors are forwarding the message, right? So I'm just
Yes.
trying to think, in what scenario do you want S to directly send a message to C21?
So I think I remembered in one case where, for example, maybe say C21 as a matcher maybe wants to receive messages for maybe a short period of time from a specific node in C51 region, right? Maybe the first phase has happened where there was like the whole spanning tree, but now I already have the moment that it has been established that okay, C51 is a static node, it's never going anywhere, and the information it wants is maybe for a specific something very specific.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's that part when you did the subscription or the you want to subscribe to an area, it was forwarded to the correct matcher, and now basically just want to include a shortcut so that you don't have to have a multi-hop
go
version.
through
That's basically
yes. Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, it's the same if you have the IP information about the node, then you can just make a direct connection to it, and then the underlying network layer would take care of that.
Okay.
Yeah, you can assume that basically.
Yeah.
I mean, there are two ways. Either you can use a TCP connection or a UDP connection to talk directly. And, I think this also depends on the message type. If it's like a message that can be missed, like position updates, that will be continuously frequently updating, and the newer ones will replace older ones. You can use UDP. That will be faster, although less reliable. But for definitely as reliable message, you probably want to establish a TCP connection. I mean, this is some details, yeah.
No, as you brought that up, that actually leads me to sort of a question, because while I was reading this, there was something I noticed, and I don't know if I'm reading that right. I don't know what's the major difference between the WebSocket implementation and basically a normal like socket.io, for example.
Well, WebSocket is like a more generalized, term. And Socket.io, I think it is based on WebSocket.
Okay.
So it says that it uses WebSocket as a transport when possible, right? However, it does add, it says additional metadata to each packet. So it's kind of like, it is something that you can imagine it's something that uses or sits on top of WebSocket, you see?
Okay.
So this is why it talks that a normal WebSocket client will not be able to successfully connect to a Socket.io server. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So sort of
it's using WebSocket, but it's not, it's not in, it's more than WebSocket, so to speak. Okay.
Students, I think I might have to go back to my.
WebSocket is a standard essentially. Okay.
No, I know that. I'm trying to see as to where the UDP and the TCP.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, for that matter, I don't think UDP is supported by Socket.io. This is purely TCP. Okay.
Okay.
So don't worry. And for now, I think using TCP is perfectly fine. Okay. It's again, try to finish. Let's try to finish the main thing first.
Okay.
The main critical path. Okay. All right, so I guess I have a feedback and question, which is I think the rules that you have set up is pretty sound. I'm just kind of curious, is does the check apply to, let's say, the source node's neighbors? Because the source node's immediate neighbors or enclosing neighbors, they should be on the blacklist, meaning that
Yes.
you don't have to consider them, right? But it
So
seems like your rule can include them into consideration.
so I think there was something we talked about yesterday. I mean, technically, it probably wouldn't. I can't remember how I put it, how we said it in the thing yesterday, but it sort of came to a point where or maybe I had that wrong, where it was not necessary. And the idea behind that was, by the time it sort of does this check in terms of the distance, when it performs the distance check, the idea is you sort of don't want to send, it doesn't really care anymore. Okay, let me see if I can explain this better. So let's say I send from S to C5 and then C5 to if I mean the first step at the end of the day was this sends to everything around the first neighbors, which is C1 to C6.
Right.
So we don't have to worry about that. So the major concern was C5-1, C4-1, C2-1, all this stuff. And the idea was, by the time you check the distance, right, between C5-1, C4-1, and all this, chances are they are not going to be this. Okay, I shouldn't use the word chances, but they're not going to be the same distance, right? And the idea is, if it's not the same distance, why do you care if it's on the blacklist? Does it make sense? And the idea is, the node that has the shortest path or the shortest length is the one that should take care of that.
Okay. All right. Yes. I see. Yeah, I was also trying to see this, if that makes sense. Although, let's see. Okay, let me ask this question then. Let's say S is for sending to C5, okay? And you're checking the distance. You're using C5 to S as a base, right? As the base distance.
Yes.
And you
Yes.
also check against all the other neighbors you know. So for example, C6 and C4 will also be put into considerations, okay? My question would be, is it possible that C6 and C4 actually has a shorter distance from C5 to S? Okay, because if it is possible, then I think your rule does have to exclude, basically any enclosing neighbors that the node that sends you the request has. You see, in this case, C6, C4 should be excluded from your considerations when checking distances. Otherwise, you could end up with something like, okay, since sorry, let me rephrase that. Is it possible that C5 to S is a shorter distance than, let's say, C6 to S and C4 to S? Like in this graph, for example, it appears that C4 to S potentially could be longer, right, than C5 to S. And according to your rule right now, if you don't exclude C4, then you might end up deciding, C5 has to forward C4 as well, you see? But that would be a redundant forwarding.
That would be, yeah, I see
but
what
this
you
is
mean.
the special case of, because literally C6 and C4, they are the enclosing neighbors of the node that sends you the request, in this case, which is S, okay? So I guess the rule you have, I think that works quite well. I think it works. But I just like to feedback, maybe you have to exclude all the enclosing neighbors of the sender node, you see?
Okay.
Okay. And so if you can exclude both the sender and its enclosing neighbors, then I think the rule will work.
Okay. So there must be
forwarding. Yeah.
The blacklist is important then.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I mean, you do still have a blacklist, so to speak,
Mm.
but the blacklist is not being sent to you. You see,
Okay.
you can basically determine who should be in the blacklist.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay. All right. Does Harman agree? I mean, this is just something I.
Yeah,
So-
it sounds. I looked at it yesterday as well, and it basically you have to you you have to ignore the other neighbors of S when determining
Right,
the.
right.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
It
So,
makes
so I
sense.
think just with that. Otherwise, I think the current algorithm you propose, I think it will work.
Okay.
Because basically what you want, Victor, is you want one line connecting each of the nodes, because that's basically your minimum spanning tree. They shouldn't, like, you have C51 being connected to both C5 and C4, and basically only one of those two nodes will actually forward the message to C51.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. It makes sense. Okay, now I'm trying to see now. Okay, it makes sense. No, actually, I see. I think I might need to. I did try to draw some stuff on paper, but I don't think I went deep enough.
Well, yeah. If you can go back to your pseudocode or the procedure,
Mm.
if you can just
Okay.
show that, and can you show that
Oh, you mean the
the pseudocode procedure you wrote?
this?
No,
Oh,
no,
sorry,
no.
Word.
Yes, yes. I think all you have to do is you're checking if the source ID equals node ID do nothing. Just if if the I guess if the node ID is either the source ID or the source ID is enclosing neighbors, right?
Oh,
Then do nothing, right?
okay. Right, neighbors, yeah. Do nothing. Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
didn't
I think it should be like if the node
So-
ID is the source ID or source ID neighbors. Yeah. Okay.
I can
Anyway,
make
you can
something
fix that, but
blacklist, yeah.
yeah. I think that then this I think this rule, yeah, that will work. Okay. So Victor, you'd like to I guess keep update or is there anything else to update?
So a leader sort of sent me a text on Slack yesterday. She said she doesn't get notifications on Slack. That's why she didn't receive my message, but she will send a Teams invitation for Wednesday, which is tomorrow,
Okay.
because she said she's working today. But
Yeah,
if she doesn't send it,
She
sorry.
told me she sent. I spoke to her yesterday evening, and she told me she had sent it already. Oh, that's what she told me, at least.
I did not get it at all. Or maybe I don't know. It could be something wrong with my emails, because I also remember the last time it took about 3 days.
Maybe check
to
your.
get-
Sometimes I found stuff ends up in my junk folder, so it could be in there.
Oh, junk. Okay. Let's think of that.
But she did tell me that she will be attending the stand-up meetings from tomorrow and Thursday.
Okay.
Oh,
Nice. That'll be great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Friday.
Yeah,
Well, Thursday.
there's nothing there. But I will just remind her again, or maybe I'll send one to her, and then she can sort of edit the date or the time or something if it doesn't work. But yeah, I didn't get like anything in the email. Maybe she sent it. It could be my email as well. I'm not really sure. But yeah, that's more or less it from me. I fixed my LaTeX, but I updated it. I forgot the number one rule of LaTeX: never update it. And there my problem started again. But I will reinstall this today, and then I'm hoping to be able to at least copy some of the work in there.
Okay.
But is it okay if I maybe perhaps like draft the structure of the proposal?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm writing on paper. Sorry, should be here. Okay. draft proposal structure. Oh, so I
The
don't know if,
proposal is due when? I mean, when will be the proposal due?
So the proposal, let me just check quickly. It has to be at the faculty board meeting. So let's see. So the third. I will tell you soon. Okay, so it will be due by the end of September, if I look at this.
Okay.
So about 6 weeks time.
okay.
Okay. All right.
Sure.
Okay. So, okay. So, yeah. So Victor, maybe, okay. So I'll also provide some update. Okay. I basically have sent out, an impact letter, which I shared a copy with you guys yesterday, and I'm still waiting for response. Okay. Although I think, if I don't get something, I think I will ask again today, maybe to a wider group of people. Okay. So to see if there's anyone who might be interested. And so that's part. And I think I will be having a discussion with Wen Hao about how to finish up, I guess, and also the current work. Because I think at least if we can get the chat working, that would be, a good basis to continue. Okay. So basically I will be having a conversation with Wen Hao about this. Okay. And okay, and I think right now, probably the more important thing now is to, I guess, at least for Victory, is to get to the, the procedures, the protocol design, and all that. Okay, because that would be kind of the core, the basis for both, I think, the proposal, but also any potential implementation.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And if we ask, let's say, Alida to help on the back end, I think that might be the area where we might be asking her for help. Okay. So
that's what I also spoke about yesterday with her, that the idea is that the help is on the back end. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, in practical terms, that could involve modifying the MQTT implementation, right?
Yeah.
Potentially, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, to add support for, or put it another way, it's kind of like decentralizing or scaling up the MQTT server.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? Because I also got this feedback from my CTO that he believes that MQTT can support up to thousands of users concurrently, but probably not beyond that.
Oh, okay.
So I think this is a known limitation, with like I think a single MQTT or with the current MQTT infrastructure.
Okay.
So if we can actually demonstrate that it can scale beyond the current limitation, that would be a breakthrough.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So Victor, please, please assign in for today.
All right.
What do you think are the key tasks? Yeah.
So, Shinyan, I was thinking, the document you sort of shared yesterday actually gave me an idea. I don't know if you remember, I think you do have something written down for like a spatial Uber somewhere. I don't know where I saw that document.
Right. Should I put that into the document? I can add that.
Yes, please. But like, can I sort of give you to sort of draft something like that? but in line with the link you sent,
Okay.
the document you sent, this impact filter. I don't know if
Okay.
that makes sense. So basically, like I don't know if the word to call it is a proposal document, but just like a generic proposal,
Okay.
but in line with this framework where we are saying, okay, this is what we're doing, this is what we want to.
Okay. Are you talking about a sort of a project for the project?
Yes. Well,
because this is actually for a person, this is actually for
okay.
a person.
Yes, so
impact filter is to look for a person.
Exactly. So the reason why I'm saying the impact filter, I mean, the idea is to have like this standard document that sort of shows something. For example, if we're looking for collaborators, something very straight to the point, something very simple, and something very straightforward that suggests what the project is about, what the best result is, and what the worst result is, and in terms of maybe a bit of background as to what it can do or what the technology can do. I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay, makes sense, yes. And I think that would be more like a more general kind of
a very general
document regarding the project and people potentially.
I looked at this and I like this.
Yeah, I think that's great, and that's something that can be made more public, actually. And if I think, Victor, if you can write that, that will also be great.
Okay.
Because like from your perspective, right? Like why is it important? And try to answer the questions that's on the impact filter, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Like into a more paragraph article form, right? Instead of like a this is kind of like an interview form.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be nice. Okay, so
as well as so for you, I think just share document. Right.
I'll provide an updated impact filter with the links to the existing articles.
Okay. Okay. And how basically I think that's still the chat.
Right.
Finalized. Right. And node surgery. I think a leader to join on Wednesday. Oh yes, I need to set up session. A leader. Okay. All right. Great. Good. So any feedbacks, last feedbacks, Mohammed?
No, looks good.
Okay. All right. So we'll chat tomorrow then, right? And, Alida will be joining us. Okay.
Yep.
So that's great. All right. So talk to you tomorrow.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. All right. Take care.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.